back in the day, you essentially had multiple streams that came into your player. One was the primary content piece, followed by either one or more streams of ad that were inserted in the middle, what we call interstitials. And your content would play along from your primary, and it may need to buffer slightly to get your ad to play. People got annoyed by ads, so there were ad blockers that were put in place to keep the ads from playing, which sometimes resulted in being able to play the rest of the primary content, oftentimes just resulted in a black screen for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So server-side ad insertion came along to be that ability to stitch the ad directly into the content and allow a seamless stream to go out to the end user. So part of it was a technical solve, part of it was a financial solve. Taking that model and talking about watermarking at the edge, let's go ahead and jump to that. You and I talked about how there's been a lot of move to do sort of edge side insertion of watermarking versus origin side. Is it similar to the SSAI versus client side ad insert from a financial standpoint, or is it sort of equally the same from a financial standpoint between those two decision points that are made for that now?
It's a good question. Real quick to just start on the first part that you mentioned, because I think it's important. It leads to the further discussion. You're right. We always had, pointer files or meta files or playlist files, which were ultimately converted into manifest for Dash and HLS, which is kind of where we are today. And we've seen a lot of evolution around that. The problem with having a pointer file, a meta file, a playlist, a manifest is that it's not a secure thing. And so people can get into them and disassemble them. And even today, if you have an improperly manufactured manifest for, let's say, a bunch of different live Dash channels, somebody with just basic rudimentary skills can capture the bit range that's inside the manifest and quickly determine, well, this is the live TV stream, this is the ad server stream, and divest the two. And so that it's easier to protect one linear stream that's being encrypted that at the point of origin has the ad inserted into the bit stream than, like you said, to be rolling along playing a premium piece of content, and then all of a sudden in the background your player is caching an ad stream, and then the player stops what it's doing, cuts over to the ad stream, and then comes back. That's harder to protect. There's a lot more moving parts. There's a lot more opportunity for latency and failure. So I think that's how server-side advertising came into play, and I think that's why DRM works so well on AVOD and FAST. But pivoting out of that, when you move, into this kind of high value gate crash, live sporting events, things like cricket and European football or soccer, as we call it here in Texas, or live, NFL events. We have a lot of experience with that on Thursday nights with Twitch and stuff there. You get that gate crash, and it's important that you be able to do the watermarking at the edge, because you're just not capable of fetching back from the origin through your network to the edge server through a cache, a unique stream for each user. And so, about 2021, with kind of piracy starting to really warm up, with everybody locked in their homes and people not able to go to the theaters and more time to mingle and dingle and people's stuff and learn tools and talk online, we saw piracy start to really creep. And so I think a lot of the conditional access service companies, CAS companies, as we call them, who also offer DRM, they partnered with the market leading content delivery networks to kind of move that watermarking function to the edge for AB watermarking, as we talked about. And, for live sporting events and these types of live entertainment events, they're typically, PVOD, they're subscription events. They're, people are paying to get them. There's very few live events that are ad supported. So in that model, they're just shifting the compute resource. Instead of stuffing ads, they're moving it to the edge to do the watermarking, the AB watermarking. And so that, for that business model, for that premium paid live sports / entertainment model, that's really the model. And that's the model that works the best. those are the pros and the cons to it. And hopefully, this might stir some discussion, but the cons to it are that now that you're running the watermarking on the CDN as an edge function, you've increased your cost per unit to deliver the content, because now you've got to pay the watermarking vendor for the use of their technology at the edge. You've got to pay the content delivery network for the compute functions that are running the watermarking at the edge. You have some additional storage costs because you're transmitting two different versions of the movie's files to the edge, where they're being randomly, using an algorithm, spliced back together.
Mhm.
So you kind of shift the cost center from inserting the ads on the server side to doing the watermarking at the edge. And I think that's based on the shift in the business model where the user is actually paying for the content. That makes sense.